It was a bright autumn morning in 1995. I remember walking down the stairs of my apartment in Amsterdam, feeling upbeat, even a little proud. My team and I had spent weeks preparing for this press event, our launch, our big moment. We were about to present something no one had seen before, a digital city guide called Discover Amsterdam, with 360-degree panoramas that let you walk the city, intersection by intersection. 7 years before Google Street View. And this was my very first press conference. So yeah, I was nervous. I was just 22 and no experience. What if the computer crashes? What if they ask questions I can't answer? What if they think the whole thing is worthless? My head was spinning, but I smiled. I carried myself with confidence until halfway down the stairs, I ran into my downstairs neighbor. She was in her 40s, blunt, unfiltered, the kind of woman who always says what's on her mind, and I always treated her with respect. "Good morning," she said. "You look cheerful." "I am," I smiled. "Big day, press conference today." "For that little CD?" she asked him. "Seriously? You think anyone's going to show up for that?" I froze. She wasn't joking. No sarcasm. No grin. Just cold honesty. I mean, come on, who even knows you? In an instant, all my technical worries were gone, replaced by something worse. Doubt. By the time I got on the bus to Hotel to Europe, I was scratching my neck, my arms. Stress rash. And in the rearview mirror of the bus, I saw red spots on my face. Great. Now I looked as nervous as I felt. The hotel had set up 50 chairs, each with a carefully placed CD-ROM on it. For 15 minutes, nothing. No one came. And then, a journalist from the Telegraph walked in. Then Het Parool, NRC, Algemeen Dagblad. Within minutes, every chair was taken, and they weren't just any names. They were the biggest newspapers, tabloids, and media outlets in the country. People I had read growing up, and now they were writing about me. The next morning, we were everywhere. Front pages, features, photos. But here's the thing. That woman's voice, the one from the stairs, I still heard it. Louder than the applause. Louder than the headlines. Louder than all the validation I thought I needed. And that was the moment I learned something that would take me years to fully understand. Resilience isn't just about bouncing back after a fall. It's about staying true to yourself, even when someone else's opinion shakes your ground. Because the world will always have an opinion about your work, your ideas, your worth. But you get to decide what sticks, what sinks, and what simply isn't yours to carry. So yeah, that CD may have been small, but it taught me one of the biggest lessons of my life. Don't let someone else's doubt turn down your volume. You were built for more than silence. Some lessons don't come with a crash. They come quietly, with a little look, a moment, a question you didn't ask, but should have. Mine came years ago, not during some massive crisis, not after a big loss, but in the small moments where I stayed silent when I should have spoken up. There was this meeting years ago. The project was mine. The idea was mine. The client came for me. But in the room, someone else spoke first, louder, with confidence I didn't feel that day. And I let them speak, let them lead, let them take the floor, and then the credit. And afterwards, everyone shook his hand. And I smiled and said nothing. Not because I didn't care, not because I agreed, but because deep down, I didn't know how to draw the line. I told myself, it's fine. Let it go. You're bigger than this. But it didn't feel fine. It felt like shrinking, like I gave something away without even trying to hold it. That moment haunted me more than any argument ever could, because I realized You don't lose your space in one big blow. You lose it one silent moment at a time. Learning to set boundaries wasn't about learning to fight. It was learning to stay, to stand, to say, this is mine, this matters, that trust a line. And yeah, it's awkward at first. You fumble, you stutter, you feel too much or too direct or too sensitive. But you know what's worse? Feeling like a ghost in your own story. Boundaries aren't walls. They're definitions. They're clarity. They tell the world, this is how to work with me, live with me, respect me. And the more clearly you draw them, the more others can truly see you and trust you. So if you've ever walked out of a conversation feeling smaller than when you walked in, if you've ever said yes while every part of you screamed no, if you've ever laughed when something wasn't funny, just to keep the peace, you're not weak. You're just overdue for a boundary. And the good news, you don't need a fight. You don't need a scene. You just need one honest sentence. That doesn't work for me. Please don't talk to me like that. I'd like you to stop. Simple, clear, firm. That's strength. That's groundedness. That's what I had to learn and what changed everything. So the next time someone crosses your line, don't just walk away upset. Don't just vent to your friend 3 hours later. Don't just let it build up until it explodes. Say it. Clean, calm, and now. Because your voice isn't too much. It's the boundary between who you are and who the world tries to make you. Not setting boundaries isn't kindness. It's ego. Yup, I said it. Because when you don't speak up, when you let something slide and slide again and bottle it up until the pressure breaks the bottle, you don't just hurt yourself. You confuse the hell out of everyone else. You explode and the other person looks at you like, whoa, what just happened? What did I do wrong? And that's not their fault. That's on you. You didn't say anything. You didn't guide them. You didn't give them a chance to understand where your line was. We walk around acting like people should just know, as if we all think the same, as if what's obvious to you is obvious to them. But it's not. You think it's rude to interrupt. They think it's passion. You think sarcasm is fun. They think it's aggression. You think cancelling last minute is disrespectful. They think it's flexibility. None of it is universal. Culture is nothing more than a set of shared rules. And if you never say your rules out loud, how the hell is anyone supposed to follow them? Worse, you might start judging the other person. They're so insensitive, so disrespectful, so stupid. But they're not. They're just not you. And expecting people to have your exact values, your exact boundaries, your exact inner script, that's not maturity. That's arrogance. Even your closest friends don't share 100% of your values. Think about that. And now imagine expecting a colleague or a stranger to read your mind. So if you don't say it, you can't expect it. And if you don't teach it, you can't punish them for not knowing. Silence isn't grace. It's sabotage. Speak. Teach. Stand. Not to control others, but to invite them into who you really are. Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked away from a conversation and only later realized you felt completely disrespected? Or someone made a joke and you laughed along, but deep down, something in you clenched? That's not being weak. That's a boundary you didn't recognize in time. Most people don't know their limits until they've already crossed them. And when that happens, the pressure builds, the silence stretches, until one day you explode over something small. And now the other person looks at you like, whoa, what the hell was that about? And here's the truth. That moment, that confusion, that disconnect, that's on you. Because if you never say what your limits are, You can't expect anyone else to follow rules you never shared in the first place. Here's what we get wrong. We think not setting boundaries is polite, that it's keeping the peace. But it's not peace. It's pressure. And eventually pressure becomes damage. Not just for you, but for everyone around you. So here's what I want you to do. Right now, seriously. Take a quiet moment and ask yourself, what do I tolerate too easily? What actually feels off, even when I say nothing? Now imagine 4 levels. Level 1. Ugh, I'd rather not. Mildly annoying, slightly off. You could let it slide, but it builds up. Level 2. Nope, not okay. This hits a nerve, it leaves a mark. And if you say nothing, it will cost you. Level 3. Absolutely not. This breaks trust. It crosses a personal line. Silence here is betrayal of yourself. Level 4. Unacceptable, period. This one, it's non-negotiable. It deserves action. Now. Now here's the twist. Most people never speak up until they're deep into level 3. Sometimes even level 4. But that's not when you learn to speak. You start at level 1. You speak when it's still small, when your voice is still calm, when the cost of clarity is low. And here's why this matters. If you don't know the difference between slightly off and absolutely not, you'll either overreact or freeze. You'll explode at your kid for leaving a sock on the floor when really, you're still holding on to that thing your boss said last week. That's not clarity, that's chaos, and it doesn't help anyone. So, write it down. Seriously. 4 levels, your real limits. The stuff that rubs you the wrong way, and the stuff that crushes your sense of safety. Give them names. And next time something feels off, don't wait. Don't analyze it to death. Don't second guess yourself. Just say something like, hey, this feels a bit uncomfortable to me. Can I be honest? That didn't sit right. This isn't okay for me. Because the earlier you speak, the gentler it can be. And the better the other person can actually respect you. Boundaries aren't barriers, they're signals. They say, here's how to love me. Here's how to work with me. Here's how to not lose me. And if you never send those signals, you can't blame someone for getting lost. So yeah, setting boundaries might feel scary at first, but trust me, it's way scarier to live in a life where no one knows where you stand, including you. Speak up early. Speak up clearly. Speak up kindly. That's not ego. That's self-respect. Let's start there. Let's talk about this. We assume people should know what's normal. But what's normal to you, Betty, might be completely irrelevant. And I'm not talking about big stuff, not don't hit people or say thank you. I'm talking about the tiny things. The daily, sneaky, quiet little irritations. The way someone makes jokes you don't find funny. The way they interrupt just a little too often. The way they always show up just 5 minutes late. Or say, relax, it was just a joke. And you say nothing for the first time, and the second, and the 15th, and then one day, you snap. And now they're standing there thinking, what just happened? I've always done this. You never said anything. And they're not lying. They're not gaslighting. They're genuinely confused because you trained them to believe it was fine. And here's the twist. You thought you were being patient. You thought you were choosing your battles. You thought you were mature, chill, tolerant. But that wasn't patience. That was fear. That was you hoping they'd magically feel what you never said out loud. And hoping someone else feels your unspoken boundary. That's not emotional intelligence. That's wishful thinking. And sure, you might think, but come on, that's just common sense. No, it is not. It's not. There's no such thing as common sense. There's only what you said and what you didn't. So if it matters to you, say it. When it's small, when it's still light, before it builds up and you become a volcano someone didn't see coming. Because when you finally erupt, they won't see the years of silence. They'll just see you. Loud, emotional, and wrong. And that's not fair. Not to them, not to you. So speak early. Speak gently. But for the love of all things human, speak. Let me ask you something. Have you ever said yes while every cell in your body screamed no? Have you ever smiled politely, agreed softly, followed along just to keep the peace, only to walk away thinking, why the hell did I do that again? Saying yes feels easy. Saying no, that's where it gets real. Because no isn't just a word. It's a line. It's a moment of self-respect. And if you can't say no, you don't own your life. You lease it to pressure, to fear, to expectation. I used to think saying no was selfish, that it made you hard or cold or difficult. But here's what I've learned. Not saying no when you should. That's the real selfish move. Why? Because when you say yes to something that crosses your boundaries and you stay silent, you're not protecting the relationship. You're setting it up for a silent collapse. You're teaching people that your needs don't matter. You're acting nice, but building resentment. And one day, you snap. And now the other person is confused because they thought everything was fine. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If you never say no, you're not being kind. You're being unclear. And confusion is not compassion. And look, I get it. We don't want to disappoint people. We don't want to be rejected. We don't want to be too much. But here's what happens when you say yes to everything and everyone. You lose trust. Not in others, in yourself. Every time you say yes when you meant no, you chip away at your own integrity. You stop believing your own promises. You say, no, next time I'll speak up. Next time I'll set the boundary. And then next time, you don't. And your internal compass? Buried under fear, under guilt, under the belief that you have to say yes to be loved. But let me say this loud and clear. No is not rejection. No is direction. It tells people who you are, what matters to you, where your lines are, and how to honor them. It's not about pushing others away. It's about making space for what actually belongs. And if you want your no to have power, you need to know your yes. Because you can't say no to junk food if you haven't said yes to feeling alive. You can't say no to that extra drink if you haven't said yes to clarity. You can't say no to someone else's plan if you haven't said yes to your own. Your no is only as strong as the yes behind it. So if no feels hard right now, start with your yes. Get quiet. Get honest. Get still enough to hear that small voice inside that whispers, this matters. This is who I am. This is the life I want to live. That voice, that's your compass. And when you start listening to it, you'll say no with peace, with confidence, without needing to defend it. Because when your no is connected to truth, you won't need to shout it. You'll just live it. So here's your moment. Not to say no to them, but to say yes to you. Because the world doesn't need more agreeable people. It needs people who can stand still in their truth and say, that's not for me. Not now. Not anymore. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, I did a big project, huge impact, successful launch. Lots of attention, lots of praise, and yeah, a lot of money involved. I had fronted a large part of the cost. Paid people, teams, resources, all based on trust. This was for a friend, a good one, someone I believed in, and he had promised to pay once the client came through. But the client didn't, and neither did the money. One afternoon, I'm sitting in my office when my friend walks in, with the guy he owes the money to, a big guy, not metaphorically, physically, and he's not happy. I want the money, now. Tension, pressure, that moment where most people lie, panic, deflect. But my friend, he just breathes, looks him in the eye and says, I don't have it. No excuses, no stories, just calm truth. I don't have it. But I want to fix this. What can we do? That was a masterclass in boundaries. Because that no wasn't rejection. It wasn't avoidance. It was honesty. And it opened the door for a real solution. They agreed on a small down payment. Not enough, but something. A signal. A gesture. And guess what? He paid the rest later. All of it. Because he stayed present. He stayed calm. He said no without fear. And with ownership. That's another kind of no. Not a no that pushes away, but a no that creates space for something real to happen. Because sometimes the most powerful no isn't shouted. It's said softly. No, I can't do that right now. No, I don't have it. No, that's not for me. And when your no comes from truth, you're not closing doors. You're building trust, even with someone who's standing in your office demanding their money. So if you think saying no makes you weak, or difficult, or unreliable, think again. Sometimes saying, I don't have it, or no, I cannot do it, or no, this I do not like, it is the strongest thing you can do. Because that kind of no doesn't just protect your boundaries, it protects your integrity.